All right, so we are on day 4. Day 4 is when you open up your essay. So go down to the start button, put your mouse on Microsoft Word, and click on Weather Rough Draft. Day 4 is when you edit your own work. When you edit your own work, you're looking to be a little bit mean. You want to find all the things that kind of don't make sense. You want to hear the story out loud. So my recommendation is to read it out loud so you hear yourself talking and saying it. If you do it that way, you'll hear if it makes sense, and you'll hear some repeated mistakes that you make. The other thing you'll want to do after you read it is have someone else read it and make sure it's the meanest person you can find. Tell them to be honest and tell them to read it out loud and find some things that should be improved or fixed in the essay. Okay? So it says whoosh, bang, crash, clap, whoosh. In 2005, Central Florida was hit with multiple hurricanes. I was a senior in college, interning in an elementary classroom and working part-time at a grocery store. This was a bad time to have to deal with Mother Nature. I see an underline, so I'm going to right-click it. Oh, you have to capitalize them. Okay. The horrible weather interfered with a lot of my life. Now, horrible, I'm going to see if there's a better word. So I'm going to double-click on it, right-click on it, come down here to synonyms, put my mouse on synonyms, and see. Awful, terrible, nasty, atrocious, ghastly, hideous, horrific. Terrible, I like nasty. The nasty weather interfered with a lot of my life. Okay. Before we encountered our first hurricane, we had to purchase supplies. When you're preparing for a large natural disaster, you need to buy water, perishable foods, and lots of batteries. See, now lots doesn't sound too fancy, let's say. So let's come over back to our assignment. If you go to the main list and you click on dead words, these are words that are not good, and there's better ways to say it. And I remember seeing lots on here. So numerous, heaps, many, scores, innumerable. So let's go back and see what makes sense there. And lots of batteries, numerous batteries. Let's say numerous batteries instead. That sounds better. Numerous. Get rid of. Numerous batteries. Shopping for items. Shopping was crazy. Shopping for items was crazy. Is there a better way to say that? Foolish, unwise, senseless, irrational, wild. I like wild because it was. The stores were filled with worried customers. In the beginning, when the first hurricane hit, I had never experienced that type of rain and wind. It was intimidating. The weather was so intense that it actually knocked down my mother's carport. It scraped up the hood of her car. Little did we know that the first hurricane would not be the last. And then it wants to do a question mark there, but that doesn't make sense, so I'm going to ignore that. What happened next is both boring and tough. Now this one, I don't love this sentence. What happened next was... What happened next? Left Deltona, left my city, without some of its normal conveniences, period. That's better. Deltona, the city where I live, let's right-click on that. Oh, it's just a spacing issue. Had no electricity. This meant no cooking on the stove, no traffic lights, and no TV. I tried hard to deal with these circumstances. When driving my car, I had to... I'm going to do a dash instead. I had to adhere to new traffic rules that I was not used to. When preparing dinner, I had to get good at grilling, and when trying to have fun, I had to learn new card games. Sadly, though, no electricity means there is no air conditioning. This was the hardest thing. I want to say circumstance, but I already did that. What if I double-click on circumstance, right-click, and then let's look at some synonyms. This was the hardest with these. This was the hardest situation, position, status. Nah, okay. To get used to. Falling asleep sweaty was no picnic. I did get to go to work at the grocery store. Despite the lack of electricity, our store could operate using a generator. People came to buy food and supplies between the hurricanes. It was fun because there was a bit of nervousness and frenzy as the public began to prepare for the next storm. And then I don't like that I said it was fun that they were nervous, so I want to clarify. I enjoyed helping them feel safe, period. Okay. After a while, the repeated hits of I'm going to get rid of repeated. After a while, the hits of multiple hurricanes grew tiresome. I was supposed to be interning in an elementary classroom, but the first week of school continued to get canceled because storms kept on coming. The children were not learning the correct way to behave in school because there was not enough time to practice the rules between hurricanes. It was extremely stressful after the first few storms. In addition to interning, I also worked after school at my mom's daycare. I was expected to supervise a group of rowdy kids who had school, then did not, had school, and then did not. That one I'm not sure if I like. Needless to say, the school year was very trying. The 2005 hurricanes were bothersome, but luckily, they were not terribly destructive. Many false school year starts, no electricity, frenzied supply shopping, and the lack of air conditioning were the minor inconveniences we had to deal with during this unusual year. Okay, so now I pause and I let someone else read it who's mean and will tell me the honest truth about what sentences sound good and what sentences could be fixed. As soon as they read it, I come up here to the top and click File, Save As, and then if I don't have the essay folder here, I can browse for it, but click on Essays. If it's there, then instead of Rough Draft, double-click on the word rough and type in the word final. Whether final draft, click Save. Then minimize. Let's see here. Go back to your assignment. Go down to the bottom. Click Add Submission. Ta-da! Add Submission. Go to the bottom. Click Add a File. Choose the file you want to find and click on Whether Final Draft. Click Open. Click Upload. Be patient. Depending on the computer you're working with, it will take 10 seconds, 20 seconds. If you see the file, then all you have to do is click Save Changes.